So I wanted to start and talk about when I was little. When I was little, I always had this urge to see the world and travel the world. And I always felt a little bit different from everybody. I grew up in Canada, and I had these parents that spoke a language that none of my friends did. And I had friends of every different color and shape and size. So I had this vague idea that the world was much bigger than our little neighborhood in Canada. And luckily, my parents took us traveling. And I remember one of the first trips that they took us to was to Hong Kong. And our hotel faced a park. And I woke up one morning and I saw a group of people doing Tai Chi in perfect formation. And this really amazed me. I thought, oh my gosh, this is just like the Kung Fu movies. And we went on road trips as well. And I remember one of the first trips we went to was Disneyland. And as kids, you know, we watch a lot of TV, we watch a lot of movies. So when I went to Disneyland, it was also amazing. And it really lit up my imagination. And so every time I went somewhere new, I would be very inspired and amazed, and I'd go home and I'd draw a picture, or I'd write a story, or I'd make something. And yeah, and this has always been a driving force for me. And I later learned what the word for this, wanderlust, which is the irresistible desire to travel the world. Yeah. So I wanted to show you some of the slides of where I'd been. This is one of the first trips that I'd been to, scuba diving. So when I was little, I loved watching The Little Mermaid, and I always wondered what it would be like to be able to live and breathe under the water. So this drove me to learn how to scuba dive. And it subsequently has become one of my sources of inspiration. You know, in all of us, there's something that touches our hearts, something that inspires amazement in us, whether it's music, whether it's books, whether it's sports, running marathons, and meeting friends or helping people or doing charity. And traveling is one of those things for me. This is a photo of sunset, one of my favorite times of day, and a time when I get lots of ideas. And this is recently when we were chosen as one of 8 designers to represent Hong Kong in Fashion Gorilla in Paris. And this is one of the cities that has always inspired me and my designs. And whenever I get to travel, whether it's a walk in the park, whether it's a train ride, or whether it's going somewhere really exotic, this is where I get my inspiration, my design ideas, where I can reflect, and this is where I get a lot of my ideas to do many, many things. This is, if I hadn't become a fashion designer or a handbag designer, I'd probably be a professional eater. This is in Camembert, the home of one of my favorite cheeses. And this summer was a really wonderful summer for me, and this was just before I started my handbags brand. Which leads me to my next slide. It's a quotation by one of the famous travelers and scholars, Ibn Battuta, and he says that traveling, it leaves you speechless and then turns you into a storyteller. So I wanted to share with you the story of how I went from an aspiring medical student to becoming a teacher, to becoming a handbag designer, and to now being an entrepreneur. So when my parents told me that we were moving to Hong Kong when I was in high school, my sister and I thought, great, it's going to be the land of Kung Fu and lots of homework. And moving to Hong Kong was of course, I missed my friends back home and I missed the outdoors, but being in Hong Kong really opened my eyes because I met so many friends from all around the world, and we got to travel a lot more. And this is a photo of me in a temple in Japan. I'd always been fascinated by Japanese culture, Japanese food, design, art, and when I finished university in London and moved back to Hong Kong and started working, this is when I did the most traveling because I was searching for what I wanted to do. On this trip to Japan, I started to collect vintage kimono and obi, and this slide was taken in the streets of Gion, which is where geisha still work and live today. I started collecting lots of kimono and obi material, the belt of the kimono, and I had remembered what I really loved about fashion, about sewing, about making things and creating things. So I was getting a little bit restless in my career, and I decided I wanted to do something creative. So I started making handbags. And the first collection that I ever made, I sewed by myself at home with my sewing machine. And this is a shot that we took with a model one time. The first collection I launched at a show one Christmas, and they sold out in one day. And I was really amazed, and I never thought it could come true. I have one of the bags here to show you. This is my dumpling bag. It's inspired by, of course, one of my favorite pastimes, eating. So after that first collection selling out, I thought, what's next? Because being a fashion designer or being an entrepreneur, it's something that I never thought was possible, never thought I could do. But with a lot of encouragement from friends and from lots of customers, I started my collection. And I went back, I did some courses in design, and I just took inspiration from my travels. So you can see this is a mood board that I had done. You can see I'm very inspired by old-fashioned movies and travel, poems, and so when we launched up the brand in 2008, I thought, this is going to be an adventure, and I've never done it before, so let's see how it's going to happen. In 2010, I wanted to create my own print because I always really liked traditional prints and designs, and I went back to the obi that I had started with, and I chose the hexagon print. And the hexagon print symbolizes the sea tortoise's shell, which represents longevity. And as a fashion lover, I wanted something that could last for a long time. So I took the hexagon print and sort of gave it a twist, and I came up with this hexagon print, and I made a line of handbags that were travel-inspired, something that you could take away with you on your adventures. These photos were sent to me by friends and clients, and it really inspired me to see what I had created, and that all of these bags had followed them everywhere that they went, all around the world, and that they went to places that I'd never been and had really wanted to go. So in closing, I wanted to say that you should find the thing that really inspires you, and find the thing that makes you think and amazes you. And this can take you through your life and on your journey to new experiences and testing yourself, and it can bring you to do things that you never thought were possible. So I want to leave you with this last question, and it's, if your wildest dreams came true, what would you do next? Thank you.